Welcome to Operating with Positive Impact, a brand new series of podcasts brought to you by PwC. My name is Anthony Neve, and throughout this series, I'll be your personal guide in shaping your organization into a sustainable business. Together, we will deep dive into the world of sustainability and its impact on the business world. In our first 3 episodes, we touched upon 3 big challenges that companies are facing in the context of sustainability: non-financial reporting or CSRD, the energy transition, and circular economy. During those 3 episodes, we could feel that data management and system would play an important role in solving those challenges. For example, non-financial reporting requires collecting a vast amount of data from across the value chain. For the energy transition, we need to create visibility on the broad carbon footprint of a company, for example. Or finally, circular economy, which requires a strong collaborations between various stakeholders of a value chain, and that needs to be supported by the right technologies to be successful. In this episode, we will deep dive into the specific role digital technologies can play in our sustainable business transition. Let's dive into it.
Hello and welcome to another episode of this podcast. I'm your host, Loeke Clynen, active within the technology consulting team at PwC Belgium, and today we are diving into an increasingly important topic at the intersection of technology and sustainability: data. How organizations capture, manage and leverage data can impact their sustainability efforts and ESG reporting. Joining me to explore these challenges and the technological solutions are 2 experts from PwC. First, we have Michiel De Keyzer, Director within the Data, Cloud and AI practice. Welcome, Michiel.
Thanks, Loeke. Thanks for having me.
We also have Dries Catteceur from the Sustainability and Technology practice. Glad you could join us, Dries.
No problem. Happy to be here.
In today's discussion, we will start by understanding the key ESG and data challenges organizations face today. We will then explore how technology can address these challenges before diving into the role of AI and Gen AI and sustainable practices. Let's get started. Maybe first question to you, Dries. Before we talk about the challenges, could you help our listeners understand why ESG is fundamentally about data and what kind of data is crucial in this context?
Yeah. So it's actually a very important question, and it's the starting point of every project that we do nowadays. And we see that actually ESG poses a lot of data challenges in terms of collecting, of course, the right data. And so companies are obliged to, on one hand, do the reporting, so the mandatory part of ESG, but also next to that, we see that investors and stakeholders in general, so clients, are looking for more transparency from companies in their ESG journey. So it's actually the 2 ways we always look at it. And of course, the data needs to come from somewhere. And we see that also for ESG, particularly then for the carbon emissions and so on, a lot of data is coming from suppliers. So companies are also looking for ways to structurally embed the external data that they need into their own operations. So we help today the clients to overcome the challenges of course, doing also the internal data collection, but next to that, all the data that needs to flow in organization external is also something that they are struggling with. And we see that the challenge is also linked to setting up the right roles and responsibilities, and because you can collect the data, but in the end, you also need to have the right people there to monitor that the quality is sufficient. And there's actually not one way that fits all companies, and there we are. We can help them to set up the right governance and so on.
Okay. That makes it clear, indeed, why data is central to ESG. And with this understanding, Michiel, what would you say are the first steps to start addressing data challenges in the context of ESG?
I think Dries already touched upon a lot. So in the context of ESG, as Dries said, there's immediately, if you think about it, there's a lot of data sources that you can think about, not only about data coming from your own company within your own borders of your own organization, but actually in the context of Scope 3 also from your clients, from your suppliers and so on, so the whole ecosystem. And that poses some challenges, right? I mean, but I think you should not think about all the data that you can use or that are in scope or that are relevant, you should start with thinking from what do you want to monitor or what do you need to report on. So what are the requirements? What do you need to do? What do you want to do? And from there, to fulfill those requirements, you need to see, okay, what data do we need and where do we get it from? But even then, there will be a lot of challenges, especially in this context, data coming from different sources, data being in different formats, data not being available or data not being of the right level of accuracy, and so on and so on and so on. But still, that's where it starts. Once you have that, once you have that identified, you can start using it. And using it means, again, for that purpose that you want to use it for. But that also means that once you start using it, that you need to manage it somehow. You don't want to do the same exercise over and over again. So catalog your data, make sure that you have a view on where it is. Make sure that you also have a view on the lineage. What data did you use for what and how did you do the transformations, especially in a compliance context, CSRD. That's going to be important, that you can show where did you get the data from, what kind of transformations were done along the way, and how did that figure on your report actually was created, where does it come from. But that's only part of a small part of management. In the end, you also want to monitor quality, and you also want to implement some processes to monitor and take action upon that quality, which also means roles and responsibilities, assigning those within your organization. So it starts with identifying not all the data that you have relevant for ESG, but identifying what your needs are for data and looking at what kind of things do you want to monitor, report on. Once you have that, start working on having the right data from the right parts of your organization or outside of your organization of the right quality, and then making sure that you can structurally embed within an organization that you also manage that data, so you don't have to do the same exercises all over, and that you can structurally work on quality and so on and so on.
Okay, interesting. And also, when having conversations with clients, Dries, what do you see as the key ESG challenges our clients face today?
Well, I'll take this question perhaps a bit more from a purely technology angle, because we see that today clients often already have some technology solutions in place for ESG, but it's more bottom-up initiatives. And so we see small dashboards being created to follow up on a couple of KPIs. But of course, as the companies need to mature more and more in terms of reporting and also visibility towards stakeholders, they need a more structured approach. And we see that we can mostly support them in helping them to identify, okay, what are the right tools for my organization to track and monitor the ESG data, but also just to have some short introduction sessions on, okay, what is their ambition and what's the starting point really to get going, because we know it's a new domain, and often we see that, for example, they have there's a sustainability manager who is now in control of the whole ESG program, but of course, the data is spread across the organization. So then we have probably some product owners who are then responsible for different streams in the organization to provide the data to the sustainability manager. So there's different ways that this can be set up, but the challenge is to get started and to really sit together with the client, see, okay, what is the ambition? What is the landscape looking like today? Where do you want to go? And what is the fit for technology? And that's actually something where most of the projects we do now, that's generally the approach that we take.
And maybe if I can add to that, because it's very interesting what you're saying, Dries, it's also important, and in a lot of organizations, ESG and ESG reporting, it's about reporting, it's about analytics, it's about getting data together and then creating reports and insights out of it. That's not a new function within most of the organizations. Not for ESG, it might be, but not in general. And I think it's also important to make sure that you look at what is already there in terms of analytics pipelines, reporting, and so on, and to make sure that maybe not you reuse all that, or that you need to slow the process down of being able to report to make sure that it's embedded in all the things that you already have. But it's an important consideration to take into account. It's also very important.
Yeah.
Maybe following up on that, with these challenges in mind, how can technology then help tackle these issues and challenges?
Well, we call it often the iceberg principle, where you see 80% is under the water and the work is being done there. And it's like Michiel mentioned, getting an overview of the data you need, collecting it, doing transformations, making sure the quality is right, having the right people there. And then actually the last 20% is making sure that it's then presented in a nice way, but also understandable, because you need to know that often the end user, so to speak, is probably the board or even C-level executives who need to have at a glance an overview of where are we with our ESG, and how can we monitor it, and that's something that needs to be kept in mind. And as I mentioned, we mostly provide support now on also making sure that clients select the right tool, keeping in mind, of course, the tools they already have, but also the ambitions. Because we see that they can also have a low-scale technology that perfectly fits with what they need. And even mature companies can go with a low mature tool, so to speak, but it's just for reporting. But others really want to go to the full value chain solutions, where they have an overview of, okay, we call it actually a control tower, and keeping an overview of the different ecosystems and supply chains that you have. So there's a number of ways to look at it, and of course we have strong alliances with SAP, Salesforce, Microsoft, and so on. But we're also building new partnerships with startups, because they give more the low entry, mid-market solutions that also clients are looking for. Because in the end, it's also a budget exercise, and clients are not always foreseeing a lot of budget at the moment, so they need to start somewhere, and then it will grow in the future.
Okay. And other considerations to keep in mind when selecting an ESG tool, or if there are any other things that you would think of?
Well, in general, we say two things, as I just mentioned, is what is the current technology landscape? Are they perhaps already SAP, backbone, and so on? But next to that, what is the ambitions? And we see there we can support them in defining the roadmap on how to use technology in the most efficient way. But that's really the two starting points. And in the end, the goal is to be the most efficient and reuse, of course, the current applications as much as possible. So that's why it's so important in the first step to get an overview of the current landscape, where is the data, and then we can look for a good solution.
Very clear and interesting. Understanding the right tools and technologies to manage ESG data also brings us to another transformative technology, AI. So Michiel, as we look at these integrated data systems and the complexities they manage, how is AI being used to enhance ESG initiatives?
Yeah, you can't have any conversation anymore or any podcast anymore without talking about AI, right? But also, I think in the context of ESG, AI, Gen AI are very relevant to look at, and I do see two angles actually. There's AI for ESG, and there's ESG for AI. Maybe to start with the first one, I think of course AI and Gen AI is all about processing mainly unstructured data. In a lot of cases, ESG data will be somehow unstructured, or it will at least be coming from many different sources, many different formats, sometimes structured, sometimes unstructured. So processing that, giving interpretation to that, AI will help. Processing mass amounts of data of different formats. That's one aspect. Also maybe more manual tasks that are still out there. Maybe Gen AI and AI in general will help to automate. And for instance, also for reporting, for writing things. In the context of reporting, you have the factual things, but normally you need to bring some context to it, need some explanations. Writing aspects, their Gen AI is very suitable of at least helping out with that. I think it's very important that I say helping out, because there's always still the human factor. I don't think AI will replace, and Gen AI will replace many jobs or people in the short term. It depends a bit on what we're talking about. But also in ESG, I mean, it will be a co-pilot and assistant that can help you with, for instance, things like reporting or automating, or maybe filling in missing data elements by creating synthetic data, so you can still do your reasoning and your reporting on, but it will still be the human that will have to validate. So that's not different than for other functions, I would say. On the other hand, the whole discussions about AI is also relevant if you talk about ESG from the other side of things, ESG for AI, because there is, of course, a lot to say about the environmental impact of those large language models and other algorithms running in data centers, consuming a lot of energy. So actually, the use of AI, the environmental impact of it should also be in consideration for organizations on what to use it for, to use it efficiently, to use the right algorithms in the right data centers with the right companies that have the right strategy when it comes to ESG. The social aspect is, of course, also very relevant. So the bias is a very common thing in algorithms. It's something that you cannot avoid. So you need to be aware of that, and you need to have things in place. And there's, the processes and the people aspect that comes within it to manage that, to make sure that you deal with it in the right way. If Gen AI will replace jobs or maybe lower the need in certain functions to have people doing stuff, that's also a social aspect to take into consideration. So you have those two dimensions which make the discussion on the intersection of AI and ESG, in my opinion, very interesting, and where we will see a lot of super interesting things happening, I think, in the weeks and months to come.
I think it's a very important topic because, of course, for AI to be used, organizations need to be already quite mature in terms of their ESG data performance. But I think we also have an important role to play in a bit demystifying AI and showing, okay, what is it actually about and how can it help you? And already think of some use cases for ESG where it could be used in projects. I think clients are also looking for that we think together with them on ways to use it. And then once it's concrete, we can actually see how it takes off from there.
Yeah, and to structurally embed it, it needs some maturity. But on the other hand, there's a lot of cumbersome aspects towards the data aspect when it comes to ESG. I think this podcast made that clear. So I think from the start, looking at how AI can maybe help with lowering the barrier or lowering some of the challenges or some of the cumbersome aspects of dealing with that data, that's definitely something that we should do as from the start, or take along in the conversation with our clients to help them even further with our clients, whether they're mature or not. So that's something that I want to maybe close with.
Okay. I hear a lot of very interesting insights today, and thank you so much, Michiel and Dries. It's clear that integrating data management and technology are crucial for advancing sustainability goals. And to our listeners, we hope you find today's discussion inspiring. We look forward to bringing you more insights on technology and sustainability. Until next time, keep innovating and pushing the boundaries for a sustainable future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.